My name is Daryl Smith and I'm with Jim Barna Log and Timber Homes. Today, with the help of Dave Desarchik, we're going to put together a corner display showing you briefly how our construction class goes and the basics of our system. Now, the first thing when buying a prepackaged, pre-milled home, you're going to get a cut sheet. This cut sheet describes how each log goes together. Each log will have a designated area, it'll give a length, and it'll tell what type of log it is, whether it's a notch or a straight log. This will be critical when you go to put the logs together. Now, when you're figuring out for this cut sheet, there's some very important dimensions that you need, and that's the inside face of log. And you'll see these on the cut sheet, but that inside face of log is where each one of these logs sets. And because you won't have subfloor that actually extends out beyond your log package, you're going to need to be able to stick a level on the inside and have a reference point at the bottom. So those inside face of logs are going to be the chalk line that's actually designed around your subfloor. Now, that chalk line, depending on the thickness of your log profile, will come off the outside anywhere from 4 to 6 inches to the inside of that floor. And you'll notice a chalk line around the outside approximately 4 inches in on our 6x12 log. Now, regardless of what profile you use, you're going to have those same chalk lines on the inside. All of them are going to be fastened together the same way. You're going to start with a fastener such as this. This is a log hog fastener, any type of mechanical fastener. You'll notice this has threads that are larger than the diameter of the shaft. This is to allow two logs to pull together tightly. If this were all the same length or the same width all the way down there and you had threads that actually extended in two logs, any space that you had between the two logs as they are joined together would remain. So you want to make sure that the threads of whatever fastener you use are buried only in the log before. Now, there are several different types of fasteners out there. We offer a fastener like this and also lag screws. With the lag screws, generally you'll have a pre-drilled pilot hole and a countersink hole to provide that same ability to pull one log down to the other, not causing two to bind up on the threads. Now, when you start to lay out those chalk lines on your floor, it's very critical with our system that your floor be square and also that chalk line on the inside to be square. So you're going to want to take a series of diagonal dimensions using your tape measure. Once you've got the sizes right on all four of your walls, you'll want to take a cross dimension. That diagonal, make sure that the two diagonals going from opposite corner to opposite corner, all four corners match. You want to make sure it's square. It is critical because you'll see when we place our first course of logs down, we have a recessed cut. That recessed cut follows down the length of your log. What this does is allow that lip of this log to actually come over the joint between your subfloor and your log. That allows it to, or keeps it from any type of air or water infiltration from going underneath that first course of logs. Now, when you're laying this out, you've got your chalk lines in place, everything is squared up. The first thing you're going to do before you place that log down is you're going to use a bead of the log adhesive. This log adhesive, Chemrex, you're going to place a bead all the way the outside of that chalk line, all the way around the outside of your subfloor. This is going to create a bed that you can set that first course of log in. You're going to start out with your plate logs. Using your chalk lines, you're going to line those up. Depending on which profile log you have, what type of overhang you have, it's going to be critical in how you set that first course of logs. You're going to have to take into account the amount of your overhang on your logs, plus whatever amount of log, like you see here, overhangs the foundation. When you line up that first course, the first thing you're going to do is figure out what your overhang is. You're going to want to make sure that you take into account your overhang, the area that hangs over the outside of the log here, and the log up to this chalk line. On this square log, it's approximately 8 inches. You can see here it's got that corner cut. On your round logs, that plate log will not have that notch. So you're going to have to figure out that dimension, set your first log on that intersecting corner point, those two chalk lines. Once you have that in place, the first thing you're going to do, take a 16-penny nail, go ahead and drive it down in that corner, right where the other log is going to overhang, making sure everything's on the chalk line. This first course of log is the only course of logs that you'll put any toenails in. You also want to make sure when you place your toenails, they're going into an area where you have another log extending off it, or you'll have an intersecting corner. You don't want to put any nails along the face of your log because all that's going to do is create problems down the line when you go to finish it, because this is all finished interior walls here, so you don't want any nails driven into that part that you'll see later. So you're going to hide them either in the ends of the logs, in the intersecting corners. Then you're going to go ahead, put your beaded adhesive down, go ahead and put that intersecting log on there. Make sure it's on the chalk line. You can toenail that log in place. Keep in mind though, that first course is the only one. Any toenails above that are going to restrict the settling. So you want to make sure you only toenail the bottom course, and the only reason we're doing that is to make sure it stays secure as we put in our first fasteners. Now Dave's going to go ahead and drive in the first fastener, securing this log in place. Now these fasteners go approximately every 24 inches all the way around the outside of your house, all the way up on every course. Now keep in mind as you're fastening them down, you want to make sure that everything is tight and secure. You also want to make sure that that first course stays on the chalk lines. Now with a square log, you'll see that they line up nice and flush with the chalk line. But when you have the curvature of a round log on it, that inside face dimension is going to actually be on the face, the outside round of that log. When you're doing that, what you're going to do is you're going to line up a speed square for the first couple courses on that chalk line, and you're going to bring the curvature of that log, that inside crown, and go ahead and press it up against that. You can do the first couple of logs like that. After you get too high for your speed square, then you're going to switch over to your level, and you're going to make sure every course, as you set your logs in place, run your level up there, make sure everything's plumb going up, both sides. It's nice with a square log because you have this square shoulder, and you can use that level right along that square shoulder and make sure that they're lining up as you go up the hill. Now, because we use a milled log process, a lot of our logs are shorter. You'll notice that we have joints in our house. The reason for that is the average person, or the average two people, can pick up one log, put it on their shoulder, and carry it up on the deck to set it. We don't require a lot of heavy equipment to set these logs. For that reason, every time you have a joint in your logs, you'll notice in the end of the log there's a dado slot. Every one of your logs will have this on the end. The corresponding log that butts up to that will have that same dado slot. You'll take these dado blocks. They're a piece of 5/4 board. They come in a box pre-cut to height. Now the height on them is just slightly short of the stack height of your log. That way, as your logs start to settle down, these vertical blocks don't hold up the log course above it. So you're going to take these blocks, going to go ahead and take some of your sill seal, cut a large roll of sill seal, just cut it in half, split it in half, use that thin piece, wrap around your dado block twice, then you're going to go ahead and drive it down in between those two logs. These dado blocks will be different depending on the stack height of your log, but each one of your courses, anytime you have a joint, you'll use a dado block wrapped with foam tape. Also on each course of logs, you're going to come back with that same log adhesive you used on the first course underneath the logs. You're going to take that log adhesive and you're going to go ahead and follow these tongues. You're going to follow them down your saddle notch or your dovetail and around and come right down to the other tongue. You're going to run that subfloor, that adhesive around both of those tongues, making sure those match, creating that little horseshoe effect. Once you have that there, you're also going to take a 1/4 inch bead and you're going to zigzag it in between the tongues all the way down the length of your log. Again, that's a 1/4 inch bead down every course of logs in between these tongues. Once you have that secured, you're going to come back with a gasket tape. This butyl tape, you'll go ahead and run it down the tongues, down the length of each one of your tongues, pressing it in place. You'll peel off the layer of tape above it. You want to make sure that follows down both tongues all the way down the length of your log.